Cough up a lung where I'm from, Marcy, son. A lot of people were probably introduced to Jay-Z from his second album, In My Lifetime Volume 1, his Def Jam debut and second album overall following his '96 classic, Reasonable Doubt. Did you know that he was in the rap game years prior to his debut album? Yeah, since the mid-80s. You might have heard about his beef with Nas, which I've covered before on the channel, but now I'll be going over the beef between Jay-Z and his mentor, Jaz-O. Their friendship started back in the 80s in the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, where they're from. They at first had a group called High Potent MCs along with two other rappers and recorded a few tracks, including the song HP Gets Busy. Then Jaz-O wound up getting signed to EMI Records and went out to London to record his debut album, Words to the Jazz, which had the single Hawaiian Sophie featuring Jay-Z and was then featured on his second album, To Your Soul, released in 1990 on the tracks It's That Simple and The Originators. Jaz-O is known as the originator of the triplet flow that was popularized by artists like Lord Infamous from 3 6 Mafia, Bone Thugs and Harmony, and more recently the Migos. In the mid-90s, Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and Kareem Burke, aka Biggs, started up Roc-A-Fella Records, and Jay dropped his debut album, Reasonable Doubt. Jaz appeared on the track Bring It On along with Sauce Money, and he also produced the track Ain't No Nigga featuring Foxy Brown, which was the second single from the album, and played a part in getting Jay signed to Def Jam. Then the next year in November, on the Volume 1 album, Jaz produced the track Rap Game Crack Game. He then produced 2 tracks for the Streets Is Watching soundtrack released in May 1998. Then in September 1998, Jay released his third album, Volume 2, which has the single Nigga What? Nigga Who? Which features Jaz and Emil. Surprisingly enough, he wouldn't be featured or have production credits on Jay-Z's next albums, which might have been the first signs of some kind of issue between the two. Their long-standing friendship and work relationship turned into lyrical sparring due to Jaz not wanting to sign to Roc-A-Fella. Allegedly, Jaz didn't trust Dame and Biggs and also was not satisfied with the amount they offered to sign either. Around this time, the beef between Nas and Jay-Z was heating up. Jay dropped the diss track Takeover, dissing Mobb Deep and Nas, then Nas responded with the track Ether, on which Nas mentioned Jaz-O a few times throughout the song. For example, saying that Jay-Z used to wear Jaz's chains and that he got his stage name from him as well. Then in March 2002, Jaz dropped the album Kings County with his group The Mobilari, and Jay-Z was featured on the track Let's Go. But he didn't show up for the video shoot, which understandably rubbed Jaz the wrong way and certainly didn't help the situation. Jaz-O had an interview with MTV News also in 2002, in which he essentially expressed dissatisfaction with how the relationship is, considering the help he has given Jay throughout his career. Now that diss tracks between the two old friends would commence, the Roc-A-Fella crew dissed Jaz-O with a freestyle to the classic Styles P track, Good Times. Jay-Z, Freeway, Young Guns, Gita K, and Memphis Bleak all dissed Jaz with plenty of lines taking aim for his age, among other things. Jay-Z starts it off by claiming Jaz just wants attention and spits a few bars, then passes it to Freeway, who spits one of the hardest bars off rip. You like the beer king dropped in minutes, 40 and broke. Which is a reference to the film Menace to Society and the fact that Jaz-O was close to 40 years old at the time. Everyone pretty much keeps calling him old, which I feel is pretty disrespectful considering he's one of the people who really helped Jay-Z get into a position to be as successful as he has been. The whole crew did alright, but I'm sure I'm not alone when I say it would have been nice to hear some more bars from Jay himself, rather than him being the boss and sending his crew after Jaz. It's a classic beat they're rapping over though, so I still find myself listening to it despite the fact that lyrically it's a bunch of bars about Jaz being old and broke. Jay-Z released Blueprint 2, The Gift and the Curse, a double disc album, in November 2002, and on the title track he disses Nas, but he also has a line referring to Jaz-O. Jaz-O released the diss track Over or It's Over, which can be seen as a double entendre for Jay-Z's nickname Hova, as well as simply telling him that it's over between them because of the beef. Throughout the song, Jaz sends Jay reminders of who brought him into the game, mentored, and supported him with lines like, "Where did you learn the verse? Get a burner first, that make all concern disperse. Flashback a few thousand days when you were coming of age." The line about the gun is a reference to the claim that Jaz was the one who gave Jay-Z the gun he used as a kid to shoot his brother for stealing from him. Jay-Z has mentioned the shooting incident before in various songs, and then later on in the song, Jaz makes another reference to the shooting with the line, "I couldn't shoot my brother unless he was beating on Ma." In the song You Must Love Me from Volume 1, Jay states that he ran to Jaz's house after the shooting occurred. so it's entirely likely that Jaz was also the one who gave him the gun to begin with. He also has a line referencing the Blueprint 2 album, that line being, "Me, double the gift, none of the curse." Then he has the lines, "Marcy the foundation, the game is mastered, some niggas are grown, some manufactured," which is essentially Jaz calling Jay-Z fake, not real, and keep that line in mind for later also, by the way. In response to the Good Times freestyle by the Roc-A-Fella crew, Jaz-O dropped a track titled Over Part 2, in which he's rapping over the beat for the hit single Nothing by Nori, and which of course is a sequel to the first one where he was going at Jay-Z. Jaz starts off with coming at Jay for sending the goons to diss him on that track and for basically turning his back on him despite Jaz being the one who paved the way for him and put him in his first music video. He disses Freeway next, and just like Freeway had one of the best lines in the Good Times freestyle, Jaz-O comes back at Freeway with a funny line of his own, dissing Free for his first name, Leslie. Next is Free Sneezy, "You ain't Diesel, you a stink fat beetle. Jaz-O is deadly, you pussy, you ain't ready. You a high-pitched whining ass nigga named Leslie. I can't vision a pump and a vest with that, maybe some pumps and a dress with that." Then he goes on to Young Chris and back to Freeway and so on. He didn't have much to say about some of the artists, as in the outro when he's talking, he directly says so with the lines, "Yo Jeter, I don't even know nothing about you, man, you're non-existent. Same with that little Chris Young Piss nigga." Then in November 2003, Jay-Z released the Black album, which was supposed to be his retirement album and is considered by many to be among one of his best. It features the track December 4th, which is his birthday. I remember hearing this track on the radio all the time back then. On the second verse, he once again mentions Jaz-O with the lines, "My self-esteem went through the roof, man, I got my swag, got a Volvo from this girl when her man got bagged. Plus I hit my mama with cash from a show that I had, supposedly knowing nobody paid Jaz whack ass." Things died down on Wax for a while now. The infamous Roc-A-Fella split happened and people picked sides. Jay went on to be the president of Def Jam and so on, and eventually squashed his beef with Nas, which was going on at the same time. Then a few years later, in November 2008, Ludacris released his 6th album, Theater of the Mind, which includes the track I Do It For Hip Hop featuring Nas and Jay-Z. This happens to be one of my favorite Ludacris tracks and has the trio expressing their love of rap and how it changed their life for the better essentially. On Jay's verse he says, "Shout out to Grandmaster Flash and Kaz and even Jaz bum ass." Once again another dig at his former mentor, Jaz-O. Then that next month, the promotional single Brooklyn Go Hard by Jay-Z and Santa Gold for the Biggie biopic titled Notorious was released. On the track, Jay-Z raps about growing up in Brooklyn, where he and Biggie are both from. It's not a diss track, but it is one of my favorite Jay-Z tracks. It features the widely loved lines, "I father, I Brooklyn Dodger them, I jack, I rob, I sin, aw man, I'm Jackie Robinson, except when I run base, I dodge the pen." The triple entendre for baseball, drug dealing, and Jackie Robinson. Anyways, shortly afterwards, Jaz-O released another diss track going at Jay-Z titled Go Harder, in response to Jay mentioning him in I Do It For Hip Hop. Jaz raps over the beat for Brooklyn Go Hard, and then on the second verse raps over the beat to I Do It For Hip Hop. This is a diss track I've listened to a whole lot, probably one of my favorites considering the beats used and the fact that I can't think of many rappers that go at Jay-Z directly. But who else would be fitting besides the person who helped him out from the very beginning and showed him the ropes? Jaz-O responds directly to the Jackie Robinson bars with the lines, "You dare compare yourself to Jackie Robinson, you Jack and Robinson on your own family and friends. Blood money, kill charges, and mandates. You can dodge the pen, but can't steal my fan base." And then for his second verse, he raps over beatboxing before the beat switches to I Do It For Hip Hop, which in a way is mimicking Jay's verse from that track, since on the Luda song, he rapped with an old school flow that was very common in the 80s when they started rapping. Jaz talks about back in the days rhyming at the park and how he was basically famous in his hood for rapping before Jay-Z even came into the picture, and has the lines, "I rhymed first and they ended the session, till I said let me hear 'em even though I'm so deaf, man. The neophyte graduated a freshman." That last line holds some significance since, as I said a minute ago, I really listened to this track a lot. If you've never taken a moment to check out channel memberships for this channel, then you might not notice, but 2 of the tiers are currently titled Neophyte and Freshman, and that comes from this song right here. Speaking of which, consider becoming a channel member if you want to help support the channel further and you really love hip-hop like I do and want to continue seeing more videos like this. To wrap up this track, Jaz finishes his second verse with the lines, "Got this artificial gangster, Testing your guy, wearing his "I could be the best nigga" disguise. Told y'all before, some cats are actors, some dudes are grown, some manufactured. Like I said earlier, the manufactured line from the Over diss track would come back into play. Then around August of that year, the track Gangsta's Ride by Game and Jaz-O was released, which has Jaz-O once again taking shots at Jay in his verses. On his first verse he has the lines, "I'm the prototype, first one, king of the triplet. When I first did it, Twista wasn't even in the business. Knew big when he wasn't even in the business. Put the little nigga Jay-Z in the business." Once again staking his claim and helping Jay-Z out in the very beginning of his career. Then on his third verse he has the lines, "Jaz-O, stupid motherfucker, not Sean, never been bashed on a Tupac song," which is a reference to the fact that Jay-Z got dissed by Tupac on tracks like Bomb First and All Out. It makes sense for them to do this track together considering Game had his own beef with Jay-Z at the time. Shortly afterwards, the Jay-Z album Blueprint 3 was released, and on the intro track, What We Talking About, featuring Luke Steele, Jay once again takes a shot at Jaz with the lines, "People keep talking about Hove left him flat, trying to rewrite history. Let's talk about facts. Dame made millions, even Jaz made some scraps. He could have made more, but he ain't signed his contract." A reference to one of the driving things behind this whole beef, Jaz-O turning down the contract that he was offered by Roc-A-Fella Records. Sometime during the beef, Jay-Z made an appearance on the Dave Letterman show and was asked about his upbringing in Marcy Projects and how he got into the rap game. And Jay-Z mentions that a guy by the name of Jaz had a record deal and things snowballed from there essentially. The feud died down again until in December 2017 when Jaz-O and Jay-Z met up during Jay-Z's 444 tour at a show in Chicago. They were pictured together backstage along with producer No ID. You could say the beef was officially squashed then. Similar to what he has done to other rappers he had beef with, he signed a deal with his company, Roc Nation, with Jaz-O in 2019. He really is a businessman at heart, that much is clear. In 2020, Jaz-O released the warm-up through Equity Distribution, Jay-Z's distribution company for Roc Nation. I gave it a listen and it's pretty good. It includes the track Lookin' Like featuring the late Nipsey Hussle. Then around January 2022, Jaz-O had an interview on Vlad TV and was questioned by Vlad about his relationship with Jay-Z among other things. He brought up the whole situation with Jay-Z shooting his brother and then going to Jaz's place afterwards that Jay rapped about on the song, and Jaz confirmed that to be true, that it was his gun. He also asked Jaz about the rumor that Nas turned to Jaz for information about Jay-Z to diss him on Ether, to which Jaz stated it isn't true. He went on to ask several other questions about Jay-Z, to which Jaz confirmed or refuted regarding their relationship and the beef, including confirming that the contract offer from Roc-A-Fella Records was for $150K. Overall, the beef was squashed, and it is nice to see the mentor and mentee no longer at odds. Personally, my favorite tracks from the beef are the Go Harder, Over Part 2, and Good Times Freestyle tracks. What do you think about this beef? Who won it lyrically? We all know that Jay-Z has had much more financial success than most rappers, so that's not even a question. To me though, he only took a few jabs here and there, and even for the best response to come from his side, he mostly had his artists out there sending shots. Would Jay-Z still have been successful without the help from Jaz? I'd say probably so. But still, that's one thing Jaz had over Jay in the beef. As always, subscribe to the channel, click the thumbs up button to like the video, join the Discord server with the link in the description to be part of the community, and of course let me know what you think in the comment section below about Jay-Z and Jaz-O. I started it with a J line, so I think I'll finish it with one. What more can I say?